The notice on my door fluttered slightly in the warm breeze, as if mocking me with its bright red letters, an unforgiving deadline. I stared at it with my keys still in my hand, heart pounding like it did every time I faced another wall, another impossible moment where money decided everything, and I had none to offer. My phone buzzed again, his name lighting up the screen, Mr. Hartman, landlord. An enigma, tall, broad-shouldered, always in a tailored shirt that clung to him like second skin, and eyes like dusk. Just before the stars broke through, I answered. Breath caught in my throat. "Hello!" I managed, and he said, "I need to talk. Come down now." There was no time to think, just enough to brush my hair back and hope my nerves didn't show. As I stepped into the hallway and knocked on his door, it opened, and there he was, casual for once, in a grey t-shirt sleeves, hugging his biceps, and that calm, unreadable expression that made me feel seen and unseen all at once. He stepped aside, and I walked in the scent of his cologne, mixing with coffee, and something deeper, warm like cedar. He motioned toward the couch, and I sat still, clutching my phone, like it could save me. But he didn't sit. Instead, he stood in front of me, arms folded, head tilted, and said, "You're behind again," and I nodded, shame burning my skin. "I've been looking for more hours," I whispered, trying to sound braver than I felt, and he just looked at me for a long time, before saying softly, "I could help you. You know I could make this problem disappear right now. But there's a condition." My breath caught. "Tell me," I said, and he smiled slow. "Devastating. I won't ask you to do anything you don't want. But if you say yes, I expect you to say yes completely." There was a silence stretched between us, taut and trembling. "What kind of condition?" I asked, and his gaze didn't waver. "You spend the evening with me and my friends tonight." That was all he said, but his voice was low, like thunder rolling across velvet, and suddenly the air in the room felt heavier, warmer. I didn't know what to say, didn't know what yes meant exactly, but I knew I was tired of fear, of choosing between food and rent, and something in his eyes told me this wasn't about cruelty. This was something else, something burning. I nodded slowly, and his smile deepened. "You'll stay then," he said, and I whispered, yes, unsure whether I meant it as surrender or a beginning. The doorbell rang just after sunset, and I sat on his couch, wrapped in a silk robe he had handed me earlier, its softness brushing against my skin, like a whisper daring me to breathe. I had showered in his bathroom, using the soap that smelled like him, rich and dark and unfamiliar, and now the sound of voices sent my nerves into a tangle. He entered the room first, his expression unreadable, but his presence grounding, and I stood as the door opened wider, revealing two men, one blonde and laughing, like a flame, and the other darker, quiet eyes trailing over me with something close to reverence. "This is Cade and Marcus," Mr. Hartman said, and the men nodded, stepping in their confidence, so casual it made me feel like I was the only one learning how to walk. I felt exposed and watched, but not in a way that frightened me. Instead, it stirred something in me, something old and hungry and waiting. The night unfolded, slow and strange laughter, weaving through low music, and glances exchanged in silence. Mr. Hartman sat beside me, his fingers brushing mine, once, twice, until I didn't pull away, and then not long after, his hand claimed mine, completely holding it like an anchor. His friends watched but didn't touch, not yet, and I realized, with a tremble, that I was the one who had to decide how this would go. There was power in that, in the way they waited, in the way they watched, and when Mr. Hartman leaned in, his voice warm against my ear, and asked, "Are you sure?" I turned my face to him and whispered, "I think I've never been more sure in my life." The first kiss was soft, slower than I expected, full of restraint and something deep that unraveled me. The second came from Cade, and his lips were warmer. His touch, light as playful, against my arm, and the third from Marcus was reverent. Like he'd been waiting his whole life for permission, the robe slid down my shoulder, and none of them rushed. Not even him, the man who held my rent in one hand and my pulse in the other. They surrounded me, not with pressure, but with presence, and I melted into it, into them, into the fire that flickered between us, all through the night, where breath tangled and names were spoken, like secrets, like promises. The sun crept toward the window. Before sleep, finally found me, their bodies warm around mine, like shields, like sin, like home. And in the stillness of morning, I realized I wasn't afraid anymore. I had stepped into the unknown, and instead of falling, I had been caught.